Today, we're going to be advancing our data analysis knowledge by looking at data averages. Okay, now you're going to be learning some brand new vocabulary in math today, and those three main words are mean, median, and mode, and also range, but you've done range before. So your learning objective is to learn how to find three types of averages from the data that you have already collected and how you can show them in a simple chart. So let's begin. What are these strange three words? Mean, median, and mode. What do you think they are? They're very strange. Well, they are actually just methods of finding statistics to show the average of a range of data. So let's look into that a bit more. So statistics are very important when we analyze data. What we need is we need a target average to work with so that we can see any abnormalities or differences in our data. So let me give you an example. Imagine that you had a shop or a store and you sold Coca-Cola and you wanted to know how many bottles of Coca-Cola you sold every day. Now, some days you would sell more or less than other days. So what an average does, or statistics, is they help you to find a number that is an average of all the days put together. So on average, how many bottles of Coca-Cola you sell a day. All right, and that's what we're going to be doing today. We're going to be looking at averages of your data. Now, we can use this data we've collected to create what we call a range of results. Now, you should have done range in third grade, but don't worry, we're going to go through it again because it's probably been a long time since you've done it, okay? And the range helps us to find these averages a lot easier. It makes it more visual, as you'll see very soon. Now, once we have this data of averages, it can work to help show information on a graph. Now, we're not going to touch graphs until next week, okay, but all this data analysis we're doing is going to finally end up on a graph, okay, but we'll do that next week. Let's start with range. Okay, once we collect our data like you did the other day, so you did your tally chart and then you did your line plot, okay, we can put our results into a range to help us find averages, okay. All a range is very simple. It's a line of all your results individually in order from lowest to highest. Okay, so all the results that you got, you're then going to put them in numbers, okay, starting from the lowest, coming to the highest. All right, so let's use the data from the last lesson to create a range. So remember this, we had the number of TV sets in a home. Okay, this was the numbers, the quantity. And this was the number of friends. Now this information here is what we're going to use for our range. Okay, so how many zeros have we got? We've got 1 0, we've got 1 1, 2 2s, 2 3s, 4 4s, and 1 5. So let's now put that into a range. And that is what a range looked like. So now we have the same numbers, the same quantity, and the same results, but now in a line of numbers. Okay, so here's the lowest. Okay, going up all the way to the highest. Now, sometimes you'll get a range which is all mixed up. The first thing you should always do with a range is put them in the correct order. If you don't do that, you can't find some of the averages. So make sure you do that, all right? So this here is now in a range, just like that. Now, as you noticed, okay, there's two of them because on here there's 2 2s and there's 2 3s and 2 3s, yeah? So all of your data, all of your results need to go into your range. You can't miss any out, okay? All right, so once we have our range, we can now use that to find the three averages. Let's start with the average called median. Now, a bit of a clue for you. Median sounds like middle one, yeah? So it rhymes with median, rhymes with middle one. So that gives you a clue as to how we're going to find the median average. So all the median does, it takes the middle number of the range as the average, okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to display our range, and we're going to find the middle number, okay, of that range. So here's the same range. Okay, now we need to find the middle number. And we can do this by counting evenly from both sides. So we can start eliminating one from each side so we evenly get to the middle somewhere. All right. Now, it probably looks very obvious, but what if you had lots and lots of numbers? Okay, you have to do this evenly. So let's start with getting rid of the first two numbers on each side. Same again and again. So we're just eliminating evenly from both sides until we're left with just one number. And that, we can see that the 3 is the center. Therefore, yeah, you guessed it, the median average of our data is 3 because it's the middle number on our range. Okay, so that is the median. However, maybe some of you have spotted this. What if on your range there is an even number of an even quantity of numbers? Okay, and that means that two numbers share the center. Okay, well, that doesn't matter at all. Okay, let's take a look at a range that results in two middle numbers. So we can see here that the numbers 3 and 4 are in the center, and we can tell that because there are 5 numbers on both sides. So these numbers come in the middle. But how can we see a median if we've got two numbers? Okay, well, actually, all we do is we use our knowledge to find the center quantity between those two numbers. All right, so sometimes, or actually most of the time, that's going to be a decimal number. Yeah, so what's the middle quantity between 3 and 4? Yeah, you guessed it, 3.5. So in this range, our median average is 3.5. Okay, so that is your median average. All right, it could be a whole number or it could be a decimal number. Now, let's move on to our next average, which is called mode. Now, mode sounds like most. Yeah, so that's going to give us another clue as to how to find mode. It could be because it rhymes with most. Mode takes the quantity or the number most often repeated in our results as the average. So the number that appears the most times we take as our mode average. All right, so let's display the same range again, and we're going to find the number with the most quantity. Okay, can you see it? I'll give you a second. Which has the most repetitive numbers? Which number appears the most times, or the mode? Yeah, you can see that number 4 has the most quantity. There's 4 4s. Yeah, there's only 1 0, 1 1, 2 2s, 2 3s, and 1 5. So 4 appears 4 times. Therefore, our mode average is 4. Okay. However, what if two numbers share the same quantity? Okay, so maybe, imagine if those 4s weren't there. Well, the 2s and the 3s both have 2. So what does that mean for the mode? Well, let's have a look at some other types of mode. Okay, sometimes there is no mode at all. So sometimes our data doesn't have a mode. All right, so let's have a look at this range here. We can see that this range is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There are no repeated quantities, are there? All right, no repeated numbers. So does that mean that they're all the mode? No. This range of numbers shares the same quantity, so there is no mode. So you can just write mode equals no mode. That's absolutely fine, and some data doesn't have a mode. All right. However, sometimes there are multiple modes. So let's have a look at this range. Now, what can you tell about this range? We have 1 0, 1 1, 2 2s, 1 3, 1 4, and 2 5s. So if we have 2 2s and 2 5s, guess what? They are both modes. So you would put it as mode equals 2 and 5. Okay, so mode can be one number, no mode at all, or it could actually be 2 or even 3 modes sometimes, okay? So that is mode, the most often. Now, final average, and this is going to require your mathematical skills and your arithmetic, okay? Because mean requires us to add and divide, all right? It's a bit complicated at first, but the more you practice, the easier it will get, all right? So mean is actually the most accurate form of average, but it does require some arithmetic, okay? So it is the most accurate. So we need our range again to begin the process. So here we go. That's the same range from our tally chart about the televisions. Now, the first thing we need to do, now it doesn't have to be in order for mean, okay, but it should be in order anyway because we've had to put it in order to find the median and the mode, okay? So the first thing we need to do is we need to add all of our quantities together. Now, that's meaning adding all of them. Even if 2's repeat, you need to add every single one. So obviously 0 doesn't count, okay? So 1 plus 2 is 3, plus 2 is 5, plus 3 is 8, and so on and so on. So you add all of those numbers together, and in this range, in this data, it totals 32. So we have a total of 32. Now, what we then do, that's our addition, we're then going to divide, all right? Once we have our total here, we're then going to divide by the quantity of results in our range. What that basically means is how many numbers are there, okay? So let's have a look. This includes the zeros. Okay, so there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Okay, so our quantity is 11. There are 11 results. So we now have some numbers to work with, okay, to find our mean. So I'll just repeat that quickly again. You first add all the numbers together, okay, and then you need to know how many numbers there are, okay? So let's move on. So now we have that information. We now need to divide the total amount by the quantity of results, okay? So we are working with the simple equation of 32 divided by 11. All right, so let's go ahead and do that, shall we? Okay, so let's get a division table. So there's our dividend, which is 32. That's the total quantity of total numbers added together, and we're dividing by the numbers, how many numbers there are. Okay, so 32 divided by 11. Let's go for it. All right, so 11 into 3 we can't do. That's going to be 0. So we're going to go straight to 11s into 32. We know there are 2 11s in 32. 2 times 11 is 22. 32 take away 22 is 10. Now, what can we guess here is we're going to have this 10 left over because 11 doesn't go into 10, does it? So we know we're going to be dividing a decimal number now. So we're going to have to add a decimal number there after the 2 and the 0. And we're going to do the same. I'm going to put a decimal number in our answer up above. All right. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to bring down that 0. So the 10 now becomes 100. And 11s into 100, okay, is 9. Now, you should know that 9 times 11, okay, is 99. So we're going to have is 1 left over, yeah? Okay, so, but we don't need to worry about that. It's absolutely fine just having one decimal place for a mean, okay? So we've got ourselves an answer here, 2.9. That's absolutely fine. You can stop there. If you want to go further and be more accurate, I invite you to. That's absolutely fine. So now we have 2.9. That means our mean average of our data is 2.9. And of course, guys, this is data analysis. So if you want, you can use a calculator for this part. I don't mind at all. All right. So that's mean, median, and mode. Now have our 3 averages, okay, from our original tally data. So the data you all collected, okay, or the data on this tally, we now have our averages. It's very important, okay? Remember the example I gave you at the beginning of the video. So that's the original tally. We then created a range, and then we have our mean, which is 2.9, our median, which is 3.5, and our mode, which is 4. Now these are all averages, okay? And you can see that each one is different, but that's actually a good thing, all right? Data analysts like to see different data, okay? Because what they can do is they can then work with these numbers to see how or why they are different, okay? We know that our mode, the most often, was 4 because there was 4 4s. Okay, our median, so in the middle, when we put all those together, was between 3 and 4, so that's 3.5. Okay, and our mean, so we added them up and then divided by the number of numbers, okay, the quantity of numbers, which was 2.9. What you could do is find the gap, or where these three numbers meet. So you could find the mean, or the median, or the mode of these three numbers, okay? Now, quick question. Which one do you think is the best representation of the average? Okay, I'm not going to answer it for you. I just want you to think. For you, what is the best representation of average? Is it the mean, the median, or the mode? Or do you think it's all three? So, your task for today is very simple. You're going to first put some data ranges in the correct order. Once you've put them in the correct order, you're going to find the mean, the median, and the mode of each of the ranges. So here are your ranges. This is the first one. So remember, you need to put it in order first before you find the mean, the median, and the mode. Then you're going to find this one and finally this one. So you've got 3 ranges to work out. So that's it for me today, and good luck.